It's Toby from Heavyweight MMA today with Colby, Thicknesse, pro fighter from Windang, New South Wales, Australia, talking about the Bantamweight division, which is a division that Colby actually competes in. This is a pretty thick division, Colby.
Mate, it is absolutely stuck. Just looking at the top 15 now, yeah, you've got champs, ex-champs from different divisions, up-and-comers, superstars. Like, it's a very, very stacked division. If not probably the second most stacked division in the UFC.
True, man. And we've got some big fights coming up on it. The first fight being Cory Sandhagen versus Song Yadong on September 17th, man. I like Cory Sandhagen, man. He seems like a cool guy. You know, if you ever listen to any of his podcasts, he's a pretty interesting guy, very cerebral, thinks a lot. I think that if anything, the thing that holds him back a little bit is his overthinking things a little bit. I think he has the skills to be at the top, and he showed that. He fought really well against TJ. He fought really well against Yan. So he's only a whisker away from being that top guy. What do you think about him, man?
Yeah, I think, like we showed, he had that split decision against Dillashaw where realistically you can make a case he won. I can see how Dillashaw got the nod because there was a couple of like spinning attacks which Sandhagen threw, which gave TJ a bit of cage control time and top control time. But damage-wise on that, he put more damage onto TJ. So that's an ex-champ who's now fighting for the belt sort of thing. We've seen him have the spectacular KOs of legends like Frankie. He's got spinning back kicks on Marias. He's a very... It's unfortunate for him because he is just that division being so stacked. Like all it cost him was like 2 or 3 little mistakes during that fight, and it could have been him fighting for that title. Obviously, he's fought Sterling before, but I think that was more just a case to get in sort of caught cold. But I think anyone in this sort of like top 3 to 5 of this division on any given night, they can beat each other.
That's it, man. And Song Yadong, for me, I'm sort of touting Cory Sandhagen a little bit more than I would Song Yadong. But I think from the UFC perspective, anyone they can get from China is a plus for them. So I think if he can get that win, they're going to promote him hard because you think how many people can potentially be new followers of the UFC if someone from China again is a world champ and in the men's this time, you know. So I think that's a fight that UFC would like Song Yadong to win. He's probably going to potentially pull in more people than Cory Sandhagen on a global scale. But I think Cory Sandhagen is going to take it. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think Yadong definitely has dynamite in his hands, and he's young too. That's the thing. Like, I think age and just that, even though he's inexperienced, just that sort of like he has plenty of pro fights under his belt and that now. But I think just the experience of Sandhagen being in there with the elite guys sort of thing, with the Yans, the Dillashaws, the Sterlings, guys like that will really play in his favour here. But that being said, Yadong does have absolute cement in his hands. So if he touches Cory, could see him putting his lights out. But I think Sandhagen's going to be too technical, especially over the 5 rounds. I think he's probably going to run away with a decision or something. But that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Song up in the sort of top of the division, if not holding that belt in the next 3, 4, 5 years sort of thing. Because he's only going to get better from here, especially with age. If they put him on with the correct fights, and he doesn't get too many KOs or too many bad losses or anything like that, which I don't think he will with his fighting style. So I think it's probably not his time just right now, but I wouldn't be surprised in a few years' time if we're seeing him with a belt wrapped around his waist.
Yeah, man. And the next couple of fights coming up are at UFC 280. We've got Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley and also Aljamain Sterling against TJ Dillashaw. Now look at Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley. From my heart, I'd like to see Sean O'Malley win it, but we've talked before and we've kind of both concluded that Petr Yan's going to take it. Based on their levels, where they're at, you'd kind of expect that. But if there was a fight that Sean O'Malley's going to win against all these guys, this is potentially the one, especially over 3 rounds in the large cage. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. If this was 5 rounds, I wouldn't give. It's not that I wouldn't give Sean a chance, but I'd be like, he has to get a sort of KO or anything like that, because just for wear and tear that Yan could put on him, working his body, chopping his legs, even just kicking his arms hard in that. Like we have seen, Sean is not necessarily extremely frail, but his body is a little bit of a weakness. Like we've seen his legs go out on him twice due to kicks and that. So there is something, and even just being said with that tall, lankier frame, he doesn't have much sort of pattern on his body as a lot of these rest of these guys, so he can make it a little bit harder to absorb the shots. Yeah, I think if O'Malley gets it done, it's going to be because he steals the first round because Jan's a slow starter. Then he has to sort of steal the second or third that way. But I think if Yan gets his reads early, he can steamroll him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Yan sort of really chopping his legs, working the body, then getting a finish like towards the sort of second round, third round, where it really just puts a lot of damage on Sean.
Yeah, man. And the next one, Aljo versus TJ. This is a difficult one. For me, it's difficult because they're both kind of athletic guys. But if it was all in a good world, they had no injuries, this sort of thing, I'd probably pick TJ. But TJ's body's pretty run down. If you listen to a lot of things on him, he's not the whole package anymore. You know,
No.
he suffers from different things, different injuries with his knee. Aljo also had something wrong with his back at one point. But I feel like physically, Aljamain Sterling's in a better place, man. And he looks nice and flowing. And I don't know, I think that he might take it, even though I kind of rate TJ Dillashaw's skills. I just think that X factor of the damage he's taken over the years and the state of condition his body's in that might affect it. What's your take on that one? Who do you think will get it?
Yeah, I think age also, because TJ's 37, isn't he? I'm
Up
pretty
there.
sure he's 37. Yeah, he's like 36, 37, which is in the heavier divisions, you can almost get away with being a little bit older because, like, yeah, he's 36. So, but because even though your speed goes, you still got that power where you can shut the guy's lights out. But in these lighter divisions, speed is king almost, especially in the bantamweight, where let's be real, Sterling's not a massive hitter, and Dillashaw is not a massive one-punch guy. Like, he gets good finishes, but it's normally been off correct setup, like following up his kick with punches and sort of or overwhelming guys with pressure and stuff like that. But because his speed's going to be down there, we're also going to that's going to play in a factor. But then just his body wear and tear. Like, I know he talks about knee issues in the Sandhagen fight where he's had an ACL issue. And then I think in the scrambles, we're going to see Sterling maybe. I think Sterling they're both big guys for the division. Like, Sterling walks around at like 170 or something. And we've seen TJ Dillashaw fucking get his cheeks up to like this after he got busted for EPR and that. So they're both big, strong boys. But I think Sterling will just sort of have that grindy sort of fitness where his body's going to sort of deal with that lactic a little bit better and stay a bit fresher in the exchanges. And as the fights play out longer, we're going to see Sterling slowly take over. That being said, I do think TJ has the advantage on the feet, but I don't think it's a big enough advantage where he's going to be able to sort of seal the deal and put Sterling away. Because, like, as much as you want to, like, people talk about Sterling's strike and how it's awkward and that. Like, look at what he's still awkward guys are sometimes some of the hardest guys to hit because there's no rhythm, there's no beat, there's no set thing you can capitalize on. Because when you think you've finally figured it out and you got that shot, they're throwing a kick from a weird angle, they're shooting for a takedown, or they're just not there to be hit. And we saw Yan even struggle with this, whereas that first round in the second fight, Sterling just threw a bunch of volume of I just call it fluff, like there was nothing behind it, but Yan just couldn't do anything to get in and start sort of working his game there. So if we see Sterling do that combined with TJ's movement, I think honestly the first round's gonna look pretty awkward, to be honest. I think it's gonna be like a lot of movements, a lot of swinging and missing, a lot of stance switching in there. And once we hit the grappling exchanges, I think if it plays out how I think, they're going to be pretty even, but we're going to see Sterling stay a bit fresher. And if that happens how I think, then I think Sterling's just going to stay fresher throughout the fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up maybe not subbing him, because TJ is very hard to finish, but he might get a couple rounds like he did against Yana, just that solid control, just holding him down on the back or like a turtle position or something like that.
Man, we just talked about like 6 potential contenders, but the thing is, it doesn't end there. We've got a few other good fighters in the division.
Man.
When you talk about Marab, firstly, I wanted to see if Colby, if you can pronounce his last name.
Oh, Dvalishvili?
That sounds pretty good, bro. I don't know. That sounds pretty good, bro. That's the best one you've done yet. Anyway, he passed a major test when he beat
Aldo,
Aldo recently. Like, a lot of people counted him out, thought Aldo would take it, and he came through doing what he does. Not the most exciting fighter in the world. He's not going to bring with him a heap of fans from the general sort of MMA public anyway. But he's definitely one to pay attention to, and he can be a threat to any of the fighters we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly right. Even though a lot of people said it's like, oh, how do you win a fight off getting 14 of your 15 takedown stuffs. But people need to realize, like, just because you're not finishing a takedown, Aldo did not want to be up against that fence. Aldo had to work to get off the fence. So all he had to do was pop a couple of strikes, get him a meter or two away, like almost hit that black line, shoot a single, run him to the fence, knew he could win 30 seconds of a fight there. Knowing he's probably not going to get Aldo down, because how good was Aldo's takedown defense, pulling up the doubles to get to the singles to push the head away. Like, it was pristine vintage Aldo technique. But then combining that with like the altitude factor and Aldo's how he's so explosive, he just sapped Aldo. And people also said, I think a lot of people didn't realize, like, Aldo, everyone wanted to see Aldo do more, but I think it's, unless you've been in there against a wrestler who you trying to hit, he's not there, and then he shoots and he jams you against the cage for 30 seconds. You do all this effort to get out. You might get that one or two shots off, and then you're back there again. One, it's extremely frustrating. It's very draining on your body, but also it just makes it hard because you don't want to overcommit to your strikes, because you know if you miss your strikes, you're probably going to end up back there. I think that's why we saw Aldo just freeze in the sort of last two rounds where he just wasn't able to do anything. But like you said, the ceiling for Marab, it's hard because Sterling is his teammate. So I guess he said as long as Sterling's a champion, he's not going to fight. But then you wouldn't mind seeing like a Marab versus I think a Marab versus Chito fight at this point makes sense, because there's sort of two of the top five guys who aren't booked. They have nothing in line. I think Chito might want. I think Chito was calling for a title shot or something like that. I don't know if he's going to get it. Depends how this. I guess if TJ wins, they might give Sterling the rematch, because he has. Oh, who knows? The UFC might not even like Sterling at this point. Who knows? Like, the whole division, it's nuts, because like you said, like we spoke about 6 guys who are top of the caliber of that division, but then we got number 3 and number 5 who are also, we can see them holding the belt soon.
Exactly, man. And you just mentioned Marlon Vera's name. This is one of my favorite fighters, again, based on personality. I just like him. I mean, I follow the whole thing. I follow the way they talk, what they talk about, how they are to their family, teammates, etc. And he seems just like a top guy, you know, like I don't know, I like the way he fights too. He just keeps persisting, keeps driving, doesn't give up. He's got amazing cardio, right? Like, he can just maintain pressure for the whole fight, you know. And this is the type of guy could potentially take the title. Will he? I don't know. He gets a lot of doubt when he gets amongst that top tier of fighter. Like, even when he fought Dominic Cruz, people were kind of doubting him a little bit. He just maintained that pressure and ended up destroying him with a head kick. Shattered his nose, I believe. But that's that showed that he's up there, and his potential again to take it all the way. And I think that he's actually a bit of a fan favorite in some ways. He's been in the social media a lot. He's from South America. That can also garner a bit of respect with the UFC if he's got the following that I think he probably has. So that's another potential. I would like to see him against any of them, to be honest. I'd love to see him in a Sean O'Malley rematch. And I can see him being competitive with any of those fighters, you know. So, yeah, I know he's one to watch, and I do actually hope that he gets there.
Yeah. Also, he just has that crazy ability where, like, he doesn't wear damage whatsoever, sort of thing. Like, his skin's like, I think it might have been like heavy hands or something like that, but they legit said he's like the Bantamweight Romero, where he doesn't take damage really. He stays pretty defensively sound, and he just sort of waits and he plots. And we saw that against his Dominic, where he was just cruising, and then boom, it was down a couple of rounds, timed a perfect head hit, got the head kick in there, and it was. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what Cheeto's next fight's going to be and where it's sort of going to put him in the division.
We've also got our veterans of the game. Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz. I don't want to talk too much about them. They've kind of proven that they're up there and they can be competitive with any of those guys, but I don't see either of them coming up and taking the title now. I just think they're beyond their prime. Great for kind of super fights. Great to see them competing still, but I don't see them making a threat to the top tier. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, these guys here, they can probably beat most guys outside of the top 15, and there's a couple guys in the top 15 where you'll still, favour them to beat. But like you said, I think their runs for the belt are over. And it depends, because there's 2 ways the UFC can go with guys like this. You can see them either trying to feed the ex-legends to the younger guys in the come-up and almost give him like a kill sort of thing, or you can see him with guys like Aldo and Cruz. I think just give him fan-friendly matchup sort of thing. Like maybe put him against each other. Like who wouldn't want to see, or even like a Cruz versus an Edgar rematch. No, who was I thinking of? No, just a Cruz versus Edgar fight, I should say. Like, there's a lot of cool things they can do with the older guys. I hope we just don't see they like. I think the Cheeto fight was going very well for Dom until he got head kicked. Obviously, enough sort of thing. But yeah, these top guys, they probably won't contend for the belt again. But you can see them having some interesting matchups. I think either give them guys outside the top 15 on fight nights and let them just look good. That's what I want, but who knows? The UFC can be brutal sometimes, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just keep feeling these, feeding these guys to killers, and we're gonna sort of have to talk about seeing these guys hang it up, sort of thing, over the next year or two, because like none of these guys are getting younger. A few of them are coming off. Well, Cruz and Edgar are both coming off pretty nasty KOs in their last fight, so yeah, I hope they can. I would rather just see Cruz and Edgar get maybe a fight night headline each with a winnable fight where they can ride off to the sunset, look good. Aldo didn't look bad in his last fight, but I think they got to be pretty sort of specific with the matchups they give him from now on.
Yeah, true, man. And the division, like we said, it's strong. So there's still a few honourable mentions for me, man. One for the future, maybe not quite yet, is Umar Nurmagomedov. A while back, I saw him in a world title amateur sort of fight. Actually, it wasn't a world title; it was a tournament. He smoked everyone. Looked amazing. I was expecting to see his head pop up in UFC, and it has. The thing about him is he's quite unusual. His striking style is super unpredictable and strange. I think he probably needs to refine it a little bit to compete with those top level strikers such as Cory Sandhagen, O'Malley, etc. But I think he's got the potential to keep refining the striking, and his ground game is pretty incredible. So I think he's one for the future, along with, I think Ricky Simon will cause some danger for guys like O'Malley and Sandhagen as well. And Jack Shaw obviously is coming up pretty hard too. So they're three guys that I kind of have honourable mentions about. What about you? Any other sort of guys you'd like to highlight in the division?
I was gonna say that number one is just Nurmagomedov. Like he's 26. He's got that good wrestling pedigree behind him, but also just his striking, the way he's able, like his left leg, the way he's able to just chamber his kicks and flick him up, and then I think I'd think in the next probably 3 or so years he will have that. I know we say a lot of guys, but I wouldn't. Yeah, if I had to put money on one guy from the sort of say top 10 and out who you think would see the belt the soonest, I think Nurmagomedov would definitely be the favorite for that. Like he's obviously comes from a great camp. He's switched on. He's super young. He's still got like another 4 or 5 years before he reaches athletic prime. But just for sort of technical prowess he shows in his striking and everything, and he's only going to get better with sort of his age and experience blended all together. He sort of has that one of the best foundations you're going to see at someone at that sort of age and in that division. So I think, the ceiling's super high for him. Then again, Jack Shaw's a great grappler. He looks really good. But right now I think Nurmagomedov's probably like the most like exciting prospect for me, and like that realistically in the whole top 15, because with like O'Malley's and that, we can almost, it's not like you've seen their ceiling, but you've seen them sort of have that for like O'Malley versus Cheeto and stuff like that. And like when Rob Font was on will come up, we've seen him slow down a bit. We've seen Cheeto not do well against Aldo on that, but we haven't seen anyone challenge Nurmagomedov. That obviously he hasn't fought that high level competition, but how he's looking right now, I think he's a very exciting, not even a prospect, he's just an exciting contender to watch.
Yeah, man. So when we look at the division, the fights coming up in the future, would you say like let's say within 1 year, who do you think will get the title in the title fight upcoming? Who do you think will continue and like who'll hold it? Like what's your picks?
So we'll say
firstly,
yeah.
Firstly, we got the UFC 280 Aljo TJ fight, man. Who's winning that one?
Yeah. So I think I'm backing Aljo. I think Aljo is going to get it done.
Me too, bro. And then who do you think would challenge him next?
I think it has to be the winner of, unless, mate, it has to be the winner of Sean versus Yan, you would think. But unless it's like a real boring decision fight or something, and then say Sandhagen gets a crazy KO or something, you might see them slot him back in against Sterling, because it's how the UFC marketing machine works. Like, it's not always the most deserving guy who gets it. Like, it's not the guy with the best resume. Sometimes it's just a guy who comes off with the best win. Maybe something happens with a fight. Realistically, I think it might be Yan Sterling trilogy. But does that really make sense? We have seen the first fight, DQ, Sterling beat him pretty not convincingly, but he did beat him. Like, there was no question marks, I think, about who won that fight. I thought he won the first 3 rounds pretty clearly, even though he spent the last 2 like on his hands and knees and turtle getting punched and that. I still think he won the fight there. And then it also depends. Yeah, so I think Yan and Sterling go again. I think Sterling still beats Yan. I think just his awkwardness, his grappling ability. I think it's just a hard stylistic fight for Yan there.
Yeah, man. I kind of feel like Yan takes the O'Malley fight and then has a fight with Aljamain again. But I think maybe this time he takes it.
Yeah.
For the next challenger for it, I would say they want to push Vera, so maybe they'll give him like a contender fight again with Sandhagen or someone. Between those two, I think it's very difficult for Vera to get through Sandhagen. But I think if Vera gets a shot at Petr Yan or Aljo, I think he's got quite a good shot. I just have a good feeling about him fighting those two. So it kind of depends how it swings out. But I would say
exactly, yeah.
My pick is Aljo, Sterling, then either Sandhagen or Vera. That's my feeling. Like I don't know. It's just my feeling how it's going to go.
Yeah,
we'll see how we go. It depends because the UFC pushes fights that are not
exactly
necessarily
right.
the number one guy. They push fights that are the most popular, and it does depend on how these fights go. Like O'Malley goes out there and smokes Petr Yan, 100% he's getting a title shot because he's got such a big following.
Yeah.
The same for a couple of the others. Vera seems to be pretty strong at the moment. He's kind of sitting out waiting. Apparently, I think he's been told that he can get a shot, but
okay,
let's see. Yeah.
That's the one thing. That's why I don't think you want to do that. Like, I understand where he's coming from. Like, he's just knocked out an ex-champ, future Hall of Famer and that. But I get sitting out in that because you think you've earned it. But yeah, like Sugar goes out there and starts as Yan. You doesn't matter what you did against Cruz. Sugar has that hype. He's getting that title shot regardless, sort of thing. Yeah, or even like I said, Sandhagen. So it is pretty risky. Like, I understand. I get what he's doing because he thinks he's earned it, sort of thing. But I think if Marlon called for that Mirab fight, it is a hard fight for him. But I think if he's at least calling for fights, trying to prove that he wants to stay active with it, it would make it a lot more interesting. I think this time next year, Sean O'Malley is going to be undefeated and he's going to have 3 title defenses or second round KOs. He's going to start Yan, Dillashaw. He's going to rematch Chito and spin him back, kick him to Mars. And we're going to be talking about Sugar being the best bantamweight ever.
Yeah, that's true, man. He already is undefeated, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't count when your leg gets kicked and you can't stand on it.
It doesn't count if your body gives out on you.
Yeah,
it's like if you get punched and your brain shuts off, it's not a knockout. Your brain just went to sleep. It doesn't count.
True. And if you eye poke someone, it still counts as a win, pretty much. You know, you beat him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you grazed cornea or some shit like that.
Yeah, that's it.
And then as long as you go to your fans on Instagram to go harass him on their own profile, call him in a bitch, like you pretty much won the fight anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's our take on the Bantamweight division, and hopefully we'll say maybe 2-3 years away, we'll see a Colby Thicknesse in the rankings moving up towards that title shot too. So something to look forward to.
Exactly right.